This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Delighted to be joined for the first time by American amateur standout Darius Fulghum. How are you, sir? Nice to meet you.
I'm doing great. Nice to meet you as well.
You look like you've got quite a sweat going on there. I assume that you've just come from training.
I did. I wouldn't say quite a sweat. It's a lot of sweat, man. I left a good little ocean open in the gym just now.
Light training day today or heavy training day?
Oh yeah, just a little shakeout.
Okay, great. Well, of course, the viewers who will be watching this will know you as the latest signing to SJAM Boxing over in the UK, Sam Jones and Adam Morley. Before we get going, just like to ask you how that came about. Of course, you're an American prospect. You've signed with a UK management team. Talk to me about how that came to pass.
Yeah, it's a little different, man, but I think it's the best decision I made. Everybody knows SJAM and Sam Jones and Adam. Great people, man. Me and my family both love them. We had many conversations. It all started about maybe like a year and a half ago. I was on the team, and Sam had approached me and hit me up. But every time I've always told managers, my focus was the Olympics. My only goal was the Olympics. I'm not trying to worry about pro right now. We can continue a conversation later on another time. One thing I loved about Sam was he kept constantly hitting me up. Not on no annoying, but hey, you ready to turn pro? Hey, you ready to turn pro? It was always, how you feeling? You good? How's training going? If I needed anything. So he always kept in contact with me, which is super important for me. I never got any bad vibes that they were a snake. That's pretty popular in this business. They're treating me real well right now, and I'm loving it. It's the best decision I made.
Now, we'll come on to talk about the Olympics and obviously your amateur background shortly, but just want to continue talking about Sam. I'm always keen to speak to people about their experiences with Sam. He's quite a character, as we'd like to call him over here. What was it about Sam that drew you in initially?
Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Sam's hilarious. Every time we talk on the phone, he has me cracking up laughing, man. But what really drew me to Sam, man, he has a great mouthpiece, man. He's really good with his words. And I've seen a lot of what he does for his fighters. Not only that, I've heard amazing things from random people about him, just saying how he takes care of his fighters, that they've seen him around and what he does. So just a good word of mouth as well. But like I said, what really drew me to him was just kind of his persistence and how much he really wanted me. He doesn't sign very many fighters, and he showed that his desire that he wanted me regardless, and he wanted me to succeed because he knew I would succeed. And he never downed anybody. That was also another thing. Like, he never talked bad about any other manager. He always told me, hey, man, talk to as many people as you want, But he said, and his confidence is high. He said, but you'll never find anybody better than me. What did he say? He said, you won't find there's no manager better than me, but definitely talk around, man. And that's kind of what I found out too. I like I said, I'm a huge fan of him.
Now, we've mentioned about your amateur career and the fact that you've decided to turn professional for a long time. You've mentioned just there that your focus was on the Olympics. Now, I've spoken to several amateur fighters who have unfortunately not been able to go to the Olympics for one reason or another in the last year, 18 months because of COVID. Yeah. Just how disappointing was that for you? Obviously, going for the amateur setup, the amateur background, that is the pinnacle for a lot of young fighters going to the Olympics.
Yeah. So repeat the question part again. What exactly was the question?
So the question is basically how did it feel not being able to go to the Olympics and your reasons behind that?
Man, it was devastating, especially because this has been a long time coming. Everybody's big dream, even since I was a kid, was going to the Olympics, representing the country. A lot of people know Olympians, and that was going to be my first tattoo. I want to get the Olympic rings tatted on me and stuff. I had a lot of big dreams, looking forward to it. And when COVID first postponed our qualifier back in 2020, it's like, we were all up in there. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if the Olympics was even going to happen. Slowly, as we're going on, I was waiting before I made my decision to go pro. I was waiting to see if the Olympics was going to happen. Found out word that it was. And so I continued staying on Team USA and training out with them. And then another year comes around when our qualifier is supposed to happen again, and then it gets canceled again because of COVID. I didn't understand the reason really why. They said it was a lot of logistic reasons. Argentina was on a pretty strict kind of lockdown. A lot of countries couldn't get inside, and the airlines, they only had like 4 flights coming in a day. So they said logistically they couldn't make the tournament happen, which is unfortunate because that was our only way of getting in. So they changed the process now of taking for people to qualify in the American side of the world. was to go back to 2017, 2019 and take the rankings from there. And then that's how they gave the quota spots. But unfortunately for me and a couple people on my team is, we weren't on the team then. We didn't have any ranking points. We didn't go to any of those ranking tournaments to get any points, which was unfortunate for me and several of my teammates. So that's kind of the process of what happened. And that's, why I'm making the transition now, because the Olympic dream's kind of over with now, but I think my destiny is not, to be a world champion.
Now, obviously, this is the first time we've spoken, but you strike me as quite a positive person. You're obviously very articulate. But I'm guessing that a lifelong dream of going to the Olympics being taken away from you was very difficult to take.
It is. I had my couple of days of grieving, about it. But regardless, it was out of my control. There's nothing I can do about it. So there's no point of grieving for it for too long. So that's why I said it's out of my control. I can only control what's in my control. So I'm just moving forward. This wasn't the end of the line for me. I have a lot more. I have a lot more to accomplish. That wasn't it. That was one of the things along the way that I wanted to accomplish. But regardless, nonetheless, we'll keep pushing. They didn't stop me. I'm still training, and I'm ready to take the pro game by storm. That's my style is more meant for pros anyway. I had more to change how I fought to fit the amateur style, which really wasn't for me. I'm more of an adaptable fighter. Amateurs, not much time to adapt. We got 3 rounds, 3 minutes. So I'm ready for the pro game.
Was the pro game always where you were going to end up? Because there'll be some people who are watching this interview who aren't familiar with the fact that you're actually a qualified nurse. So was it always the plan to go professional? You never had any thoughts of going elsewhere and potentially using something that doesn't include getting punched in the face for a living?
Look, so trust me on that. If I wanted a stable job, I wanted a stable career, I would easily pick nursing, but that's not what I want. That's not what I want in life. I always wanted a challenge, and I wanted to succeed and be great at something. That's what I'm really passionate about. I have so much passion for the sport. I don't want anything else. That's just my future plan after boxing. I don't see myself doing anything else right now. So boxing is my only priority at the moment.
Now, one of the things I'm always keen to ask people who have degrees in other forms of life, whether it's business, nursing, or what have you, is how they came to get into those things. How did you get down the path of nursing? How did that become something that you wanted to explore?
That's actually as long as I remember, that's what I was going to do. I remember actually my dad that kind of pushed me into it. I don't even know what would make. I need to actually ask him what made him suggest it to me. But he said it's a female dominated, but they need a lot of men. They pay well. There's job security. I think that was one of the huge ones, was job security. That no matter what, technology slowly going to take over a lot of jobs, but healthcare is always going to be there. And there's a lot of people who get degrees but can't get jobs in the degrees they have, and this one is. I can get a job absolutely whenever I want. I have my license to practice, but I had been out of nursing for a while, but I can still jump right back into it. But like I said, boxing's always something on my mind right now. It's a blessing that I have that. And I really highly suggest everybody, man, to always make sure they have a plan B, I've talked to people and they always say, if you have a plan B, then you don't really believe in your plan A. Now my plan A is going to happen. That's what I'm destined to do. But plan B, you never know what can happen in any sport, man. It can be it don't even have to be something that you're not good enough. Accidents happen all the time, and my family prepared me well for that. So I highly suggest that everybody make sure it doesn't have to be school. It can be a trade, but just always have a plan outside of athletics.
Yeah, and I think while we're kind of hovering around that subject, I think for somebody such as yourself, you've got that degree behind you, you have the ability to go and do something else. I think the fact that you've chosen to box, a lot of people box because they don't have any other alternative, and they don't have. So that says something about your character, that you already have let's say a different occupation that doesn't involve being hit.
Yeah.
You decided to put all of your eggs in the boxing basket. What do you think that says about you as a person?
Man, I'll tell you, it really shows my dedication to the sport. I'm more dedicated than anybody, man. You know how hard. I always heard people say you got to be a little crazy to want to do boxing and getting punched in the head for a living. But it's just a weird thing, something I'm really passionate about, something I love ever since I started doing it. A lot of benefits to boxing, man. It really holds me accountable. I can't blame nobody what happens in the ring. I can only blame myself. How foolish do I sound making excuses if I was to take a loss? I sound dumb, it really holds me accountable. But again, nobody's more dedicated than me in this, you know. Sure, a lot of people, and it's a great story, you know, this is their, especially the come up story of when they make it, you know, and this is their only option. Man, I'm proud to them. I applaud them, but you know, it's always a blessing to have options for sure.
You mentioned your father there. I was doing a little bit of research on you and my due diligence. Your father was in the military.
Yeah.
What was that like growing up in a military family?
Say, what was the question one more time? I know you said he was in the military.
What was that like growing up in a military family?
So, you know, it's crazy. Mine's a little bit different than a lot of other people. So, you know, I was a military brat, but I'm the youngest in my family. I'm the baby of the family. So I came a lot later when my dad was at the very kind of end of his career, you know. So when we moved to Fort Hood, which is in Killeen, Texas, I was there from 2000 to all the way when I graduated high school. Born in '96, so it was in El Paso. We went to Germany. We were in Germany for a couple of years, and then we ended up going to being stationed in Fort Hood, and that's where we stayed at. So I wasn't like the military brat, so I was moving around all the time from place to place. You know, my dad made a lot of sacrifices for us, especially for my brother. He wanted to make sure my brother was in the prime of his football career. He didn't want him moving around. You know, he wanted him to be stationed, you know, somewhere where he can kind of grow and develop. So he made a lot of sacrifice for us. But I wasn't, you know, I wasn't moving around like that. I was kind of mainly in one spot.
And what took you to boxing? Why start boxing? I'm always curious as to know, was it a specific fighter? Did you go to the gym one day? Why boxing? How did you end up boxing?
You know, I never actually grew up watching boxing. So really kind of my story, it was the funniest thing. When I was a little kid, maybe in elementary or school or something like that. And I remember watching the episode of George Lopez. I'm watching George Lopez and Max, the little kid. They ended up taking him to do boxing, and it had Layla Ali in it or whatever. And he was, you know, training and had a little fight or whatever. And I remember after watching the episode, I told my mom, I said, Mom, I really want to start boxing. They took me to a boxing gym. I don't know what happened, but I actually didn't get inside the boxing gym at the time, which is actually a blessing because I wasn't mentally in a good spot. You know, I probably would end up quitting or something like that. It wasn't until later when I was like around 18, 19 when I started, which is the perfect time because I was a lot more mature, you know, and I was a lot more goal driven. I had a different mentality at that time. My mentality as a kid, I would have been crushed, devastated. But at that time, which was perfect for me. But I really started after wrestling. You know, I finished wrestling in high school and I needed something else to do. You know, I had that competitive drive. You know, I wanted to be great at something. And same thing for wrestling. I love the individuality of the sport. The fact that, you know, I have nobody to blame. And originally I was going to do MMA. That's what I was going to transition to because I had the wrestling background. But I started boxing. I fell in love with it immediately, you know. And the first time I stepped in the ring, even though I was getting hit, punched in the face, you know, first time you boxing, your nose is very tender. Your nose starts bleeding. But I don't know, a little crazy in the head, I guess. But I was in love with it immediately. And I knew from that point on, I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to be great at it because I got plenty of time. You know, I can, you know, it's no rush like it was in wrestling. I had to be great while I was in high school. Boxing, I had time to grow. But I was on the fast track. I was getting as many fights as I possibly could to really push, to really kind of push myself because I knew I was behind everybody. You know, I started late. I was almost 19 years old. So that's kind of really how I started. Training out of a garage.
You mentioned your wrestling background, which I didn't actually know about. You're seeing a lot of fighters nowadays. I remember Sergei Kovalev before he boxed Andre Ward. He was doing sambo, and you're seeing a lot of fighters do that wrestling to work in the clinch and what have you. Does the wrestling? Yeah. I'm guessing there's some instances where the wrestling background does come in handy in the boxing ring.
It does. I'm not gonna lie to you, especially in the inside game. It really does. Being able to control, hand fight, being able to really maintain your balance and position, and now I really kind of actually want to get back doing wrestling even for training as well, because wrestling's intense. Entire time you're tensed up the entire time, working every single one of your muscles. Great workout, man. So when I started boxing, I was a little bit ahead in the conditioning side. You know, I wasn't trying to get in shape to get ready to fight. So as soon as I started boxing, I was competing immediately because I was kind of already in some shape. Different type of conditioning though, but I was better conditioned than a lot of other people though, for sure.
Now, you've mentioned being in Texas. You're based in Texas now. Texas recently especially has played host to a number of great fighters, great American fighters. You've got the Charlo twins. You've got Errol Spence. I know Regis Prograis from New Orleans, but he relocated to Texas.
Houston, yeah.
Yeah, what does that mean to you to be able to add to that? Because Texas is really thriving at the minute in the boxing scene.
It is, man. Especially a lot of fighters are now coming to Houston to train a lot now. Man, I really want to put on the scene because, you usually hear about, like New York and Cali and Vegas, like home to boxing. And it's a good opportunity because there's a lot of great boxers that's coming out of Houston. There's a lot of great potential boxers that's coming up. And so to be able to kind of pave the way for a lot of boxers, that'd be huge for me, man. And have a lot of more great fights in Texas. Texas is home to some big fights. Canelo and Saunders just in Dallas. Charlo's just had one in Houston. He's having one in San Antonio. Errol Spence been having some big fights as well. So I want to bring some big fights to Houston and just Texas overall and bring everybody from Texas out. Texas is a huge, big state, man, and bring a lot of people to pack the house.
You said that you didn't really watch a lot of boxing growing up. It wasn't one of your sports growing up. I'm assuming now that's changed a little bit.
No, that's changed big time. You want to know what's funny? Before I started boxing, I had two friends that were boxing. The very first fight that I ever remember watching was, oh my God, hold on. It was Broner and oh wow, I'm struggling to remember his name. But I thought it was so fake. It's like WWE. It was at the end of it, he was like, "Yeah, I took your belt and I took your girl."
Paulie Malignaggi.
Paulie Malignaggi. Yep. That was the very first fight I watched, and I was like, that was my first introduction to boxing. I was like, "What's going on?" Like I thought it was like a stage type thing or whatever. I thought it was like WWE. I was really confused, but that was my introduction to boxing. That was before I started, and then I started. That's when I started. And then the next person I remember watching was Errol Spence, and I became a huge fan of his because he, put on a dominating performance, and I knew he was out of Dallas too, so I was kind of always looking up to him a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think Adrian Broner is probably on the border of boxing and WWE. It wouldn't surprise me to see AB go and do WWE.
It wouldn't if he went to WWE or something. He's a character for sure, but he's a showman. He can put on a show. He's very loud.
Yes, it is show business, as everybody likes to remind everybody.
That's what it is.
Right, before I let you go, I found this very, very enjoyable. Hopefully you have too. I want to talk to you about the US Olympic team. We've heard a lot about potential medal opportunities for certain fighters in the US Olympic team. We've heard a lot about Keyshawn Davis over here. What other names on that Olympic team should we be looking out for?
Every single one of them. Every single one of them. Our girls team is completely talented, man. The girls team, I love watching them train, man. I love watching them fight, man. They are so technically good. So really, every single one of them. So I have to name everyone: Virginia, Fuchs. Then you got Rashida Ellis. Then you got Naomi Graham and O'Shea Jones. Girls team completely stacked. And I say the same for the guys. Richard Torres and Tiger Johnson were the ones that was on the team with me. And the pros that came back, which people aren't kind of on people's radar, is Troy Isley, Duke Reagan, and Keyshawn Davis. All of them are ones to watch. They're all talented.
And I'm guessing, as difficult as I'm sure it would have been to have that taken away from you, I'm guessing you'll be there with your US flags, cheering them all on when it kicks off.
Yeah. And you know what? And because they're fighting in Tokyo, I'm going to be up at like 3 o'clock in the morning trying to watch them fight. I set my alarm for 3 o'clock so I can get up and watch them fight. But they're going to do their things, man. I'm proud of them.
Hey, that's what we have to do every week in the UK to watch US boxing.
Dude, I know. I thought about that. I thought about that because our fights come on at 7, so that means like 1 o'clock in the morning or something when the fights start.
When it's on the West Coast, they don't even start till 3 a.m. and then we finish at like 7 a.m.
Oh, that's rough.
You're signed with a UK manager now. I'm guessing there's potential to see you over here. Maybe
yeah,
not soon, but soon potentially.
Absolutely. No, the plan is to fight all across the world. I want to fight everywhere. I want to fight everywhere. So I'll definitely go over in the UK soon.
Okay, well, we look forward to it. Okay, before I let you go, Darius, I'd just like you to send a message to everybody ahead of your professional, well, we don't have a date yet, but ahead of your professional debut this year. What can we expect to see from Darius Fulghum?
It's going to be explosive, man. I'm going to put on a hell of a performance, and I'm completely excited to start this journey and start this process. Hope everybody will be tuning in and join the journey with me because it's going to be a wild one for sure.
Okay, well, Darius Fulghum, America's #1 ranked heavyweight amateur. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
Oh, thank you for the time. I appreciate you.
Look forward to catching up with you sometime soon.
Okay, we'll do. All right. You be safe, all right?